Hello everyone and welcome back to Metis IS. I'm Sonia Gupta with the topic Panchayati Raj system. So this is the second part of our this complete chapter. In the previous part what we have done is we have done the idea, the philosophy behind the complete Panchayati Raj system. That why it was established, what is its requirement. We already had a federal structure, right? So we have done that. Then we have done what was the historical evolution. For those who have not seen that part, I would request you to go to that part, because when you study any institution, it is necessary for you to understand that what is the idea, what is the philosophy behind it, and where does that philosophy takes you, and it reaches again to preamble, right? So you need to understand. So I request you to go and watch that part and then continue with this part for better understanding. So in that previous part we have done is historical evolution. We have seen that even before the modern era, even in ancient times, we used to have this Panchayati Raj institutions, and how it evolved even during the British time. We have seen this. Then we have seen this, that post independence, what were the two ideas behind Panchayati Raj system, whether we should have a complete village Gram Swaraj, that was the idea of Mahatma Gandhi, versus the idea of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who criticized, or he didn't want panchayats to have much power, and the logic behind that, or the rationale behind that, was the prevalent caste structures or social structures present in those villages at that time, right? Next, an important topic we have to do here is, which is not again present in your prominent UPSC books, is the topic of decentralization. See, when I say that the political structure at the time of independence, what was thought, was divided into a vertical power sharing structure into union and state. That means that some power, or the topics of legislating, executing, is given to lower levels, right? These powers of law making and law execution, law implementation, has been devolved to the lower levels. However, the third level, panchayats, used to exist, but panchayats never existed with the guarantee, constitutional guarantee. They were made under the acts of state legislature. Okay, so states used to have much dominance over the panchayats. So here we need to understand that when we talk about devolution, what exactly is devolution? You must have heard a lot of word about financial devolution, devolution of powers. So what exactly is that devolution? We have to understand that first, how it is different from delegation and concentration, and then we'll move on to the evolution, that why we want to create a constitutionalized Panchayati Raj structure, right? So here decentralization means that the power is not concentrated. You must have heard that in unitary system, in unitary form of government, the power is concentrated, right? So the union has lots of power. In federal structure, it is not concentrated, means the power is not centralized, rather it is decentralized. So decentralization can be done at various levels. So first level of decentralization is when you give the task internally. Okay, for example, I'll give you a very simple example of this. We'll understand by a very simple example. For example, there is a class in a school, a teacher is there and students are there, right? There are lots of students, and teacher, she has to do certain tasks, let's say of attendance taking, and rather than taking on her own, she assigns this task to one of the student. Is the authority or is the responsibility is of the student? No, technically no, right? So who holds the responsibility? This person. Who holds the accountability? This person. Who holds the authority? This person, that is teacher, not the student. But internally she assigns this task to a student and the student does it. Whether it is good is done by student. But what exactly happens when the task is done very finely or in a good manner? Then the credit is of the teacher, and when the task is not done correctly or there is some issue with it, the problem or the accountability is again of the teacher. There is no accountability of this person. You cannot hold this person responsible because technically the task was given to the teacher. This is called as deconcentration, where states used to assign. So now instead of teacher will take state and instead of student will take panchayat. So here in this case, when you assign a task internally, the state used to assign it to the panchayat. Now in this case, what can also happen that one day it assigns, then again it can withdraw and again it can assign. So it all depends upon the wishes of the state, not on the panchayat, and panchayat are always dependent upon the state. So there is no accountability, no authority, no power, no finances, no functionaries, nothing. And they are completely dependent upon the state and their power can be withdrawn at any time. That is called as deconcentration. When you get one level above, for example, let's say instead of teacher, principal of the school assigns this task to the student, that the student has to do this. So the task is not assigned internally, rather an external actor is there who holds much authority and gives this task. But again, the powers and the responsibility is not given completely. There is no accountability at all. You have given one level above, rather than internal assigning, there is external assignment. But again, the authority and the power is not devolved. That is called as delegate. That we have delegated this task to you, now you do it. You may get certain powers, you may get certain authority, but not the complete authority. No, not the full autonomy. You are not sole responsible for this. And when you give the full authority and responsibility, you go to one level higher, that is devolution. Okay, so when I take authority on one axis and democracy on the other axis, so with increasing authority and democracy, what you go is that devolution is the higher level. So when you have weak authority and democratic structure, that is deconcentration. One level above, delegation, and the another level above is devolution. So you go at devolution, you give the task constitutionally. Now the task is completely to you, completely to panchayat. You have the authority to take the taxes, collect the taxes. You have authority to govern in these subjects. The full autonomy is with you. Howsoever you like it, you do it. Okay. If the task is done good, the credit is yours. If it is not done good, the problem or the issue is yours. So the complete accountability is of the panchayat in that case. And that's why we want to do the devolution of powers, right? Because when accountability is there, when responsibility is there, the person does the task in full authority and responsibility. The task will be done very nicely in that case. Okay, because the person thinks that yes, I am responsible. If something wrong happens, incorrectly happens, then people will be pointing fingers at me, right? So this is the three levels of devolution, deconcentration. Now we'll see that what are the benefits when local governance is there, means power is devolved, or decentralization is there, or what are the drawbacks when central authority is there. So when you say central authority is there, so if I take a central authority who has to make all the decision. So if problem is at lower level, there is on the ground, there is some road, or let's say there is no library in your area, the problem is here. Now by everything, the decision makers are sitting here. So it will take a lot of time to reach the problem there, to identify the problem, and again a lot of time to present the solution, and everyone will be giving different solutions. So our system has become very rigid, very time consuming. So here in this case, the decision making is distant. And it might also happen that since people are not involved, the higher authority does not identify the problem correctly. For example, let's say you need a library in your area. You do not have library in your area. And To the upper authorities, the message reached is that students, they need a reading area because at home they are not able to study, and they want a library area where they can come and they can study with concentration. And the libraries, let's say, constructed, but there are no books, they just reading room. So there is a difference. You wanted something else, you wanted a full-fledged library with books so that you can read and you can have different access to books, different books. But since the decision is made distantly, what exactly happens is that the problem identification is wrong and the solution is also wrong, which is not required. So what happens in that case is insufficient service delivery and limited accountability, because they are not working on the ground, they do not know what exact is the problem on the ground, what exact is the requirement, and hence the accountability is also limited. And if the system is reversed, if you give this person only tasks, the low and this lower level, they can directly go here, they can, because they are the part, if panchayats are involved here, panchayats through Gram Sabha, they can, because they are in regular connection, the person, the sarpanch is living in that village only, he is the member of the village, he is directly, regularly in contact with the people. So what happens is, there is grassroots empowerment. The people at the grassroots level, they are empowered that we have the resources, we can solve our problems on our own, and thus there is improved service delivery. And suppose the person complained to the sarpanch and he does not do it because he is living there, he has permanent residence over there. Won't the person will be scared that the villagers will ask me what happened, why you didn't provided me the complete issue, right, complete services. So there will be more accountability. If you have seen the series Panchayat, you might understand that for making a simple road or service delivery, so they can hold sarpanch accountable, that village, because villagers are in direct contact of him, because the power is devolved at the lower level. We'll see that in Panchayat they showed one issue also where they wanted to construct a road, and for the funds they have to go to MLA. So that's also one of the major issue, because Panchayats are lacking in funds, finances, and even functionaries are not there. They do not have technological access. Therefore, they are facing issues. We'll see these parts and limitations. But right now, what are the benefits of local governance? What are the benefits of decentralization? We have seen here. So means decentralization empowers local governance for better service delivery. And this is the reason why you want to do this process. Now, what is the decentralization process? You first need to identify the need for decentralization. You need to recognize that there are certain issues which needs to be resolved there. For example, irrigation, library, education, health service, vaccine delivery and all. So you need to recognize first that there is need, because the higher authorities are not able to reach at the grassroots level. There is no last mile delivery. So better efficiency, we need to decentralize. First, if you have identified, you will not go directly with the devolution. There will be slowly shifting of tasks. There will be slowly, step by step, you will be giving them work. First by deconcentration, then delegation, and then finally devolving the process. So here is a table which completely gives you a full-fledged differences between decentralization and devolution. So decentralization, what it is, where the decision making authority and the resources from the central government are transferred, but however there is one issue, they are not legally transferred, they are just assigned. So here in devolution there is proper legal transfer of powers. So there is proper legal transfer of powers, and since there is legal transfer of power, there is transfer of responsibilities and authority also. Okay, now legal backing for decentralization is, it can be administrative or political without any constitutional guarantees, but here you do constitutionally guarantee them that there is a guaranteed transfer of power. Now you are sole responsible for this, And this we have done for panchayats in 73rd Amendment Act, and for municipalities, urban local structures in 74th Amendment Act. Here there is limited authority, however there is full autonomy. The powers are clearly defined in the constitutions. Here the central government or the state government retain the control over key decisions. It can apply to administrative, fiscal and political matters. Since it is complete devolution, so here there is complete transfer of functions and financial autonomy. Examples why how decentralization can be done, like you assign the authority that this scheme has to be implemented by you, but here in case the decision making is also with the panchayats, you allow them to make the decisions that there is this scheme, there is this fund, but according to your requirement you can also make changes. Here there is that higher authority which is designing the policy, and the panchayats have limitations. They cannot restructure the policy as per their demand, but here they can do it as per their demand. Here there is financial control at the local level. Here the financial autonomy is granted. So this is the difference between decentralization and devolution, and this is the reason why we want to do the decentralization part. Now the next topic which we have to do is in detail is the evolution of Panchayati Raj. As we know that initially panchayats were formed by the state legislatures, but however they were not consistent, they were not efficient, and over the period of time several committees were formed so that the democracy can be reached at grassroots level. And that complete evolution we will see in the next part of our series of Panchayati Raj, where we'll in detail go that what were the recommendations and ultimately how it reached to a recommendation where it was said that constitutionally you give them powers, and how states agreed and all that. Okay, so this part we are going to do in the next part, and subsequently we'll move on to the next topics, that what are the features of constitutional amendments, then we'll do the achievements, limitations and the way forward, what can be done to improvise it much further, right? Because the ultimate goal, remember, the ultimate goal is efficient service delivery, good governance. Okay, so now we'll end this part and do watch the next part for complete evolution of Panchayati Raj, where we'll study all the committees. Thank you so much.